This is a conversation that he's having with someone. And I don't even know how to frame this. We'll read a little bit of what Timothy has to say in his email. But it seems to me, I kind of want to set this up a little bit. It seems to me that the person that, I don't know the person that he is debating with, it looks like they're going back and forth in paper format, which means like they're writing papers to each other. So Timothy writes a paper, the opposition writes a paper, back, forth, like they just keep writing papers to each other. And what I'd say about this conversation is this. I personally would not, Timothy can do whatever he wants. This is not meant to lead Timothy in any way, shape, or form in the direction that he's going with this conversation. He can steer this ship however he wants to. I personally would not continue this conversation, and the reason why is because, as will be seen, the person that he is debating with is all in on their position. There's unless there is a work of the Holy Spirit, which certainly could happen. Timothy is not going to persuade this person. This person has eaten the rabbinical fruit. What does Rob say? They have walked through rabbinical candy land and come out with the suckers stuck to them and the gumdrops stuck to them and all that kind of stuff. They're not. It's not going to change. They're not going to change their view. And the reason I say that is because of the way that they are arguing this. So, with that said, let's key everybody in on this conversation. Timothy writes in and he says, I understand both of you are busy, so on and so forth. With the information you gave, plus some research of my own, and this is on the term paradosis, traditions. So he says, I wrote a paper refuting the opinion that the word in its context of both 2 Thessalonians 2:15 and 1 Corinthians 11:2 didn't mean the Jewish oral traditions, and I made the case that it means the teachings of the gospel. I've added my original and the response papers to the email, which we'll look at some of these specific examples. I handed it to the person who made the statement about paradosis, and they responded. So in the follow-up paper, it's pointed out that following tradition for tradition's sake isn't the point. The point is that if traditions point to Messiah, there is value in it, and there is use for it. Now I have seen Tim Hegg's video on the Mishnah. Did what version of the Mishnah did Paul read? But I feel like the likely response will be, yes, it wasn't written down, but it was taught orally in the first century, so Paul still would have known it. Okay, let's stop right there. And Timothy's going to give us examples, and we'll just go straight to the paper, the response paper. And I will talk about this for just a second, and then I'm going to shoot this over to Rob because Rob's really going to hammer home. Okay, let's go back to the last statement there. Yeah,
pull up the email so I can.
So here's the last statement. I feel like the response is going to be, yes, it wasn't written down, but it was taught orally in the first century, so Paul still would have known it. Let's take this right here. This is a suggestion that has no basis in evidence. There's no evidence that the oral Torah, the Mishnah, or the Talmud was extant in the first century. We just don't have it. So while this person might believe that...
Well, the rabbis will tell you it was there.
Yeah, of course.
But if you go to the rabbis, they're going to tell you it goes all the way back to Moses, that Moses had it, and that Moses received a second Torah at Mount Sinai that was never to be written down. And it was only transmitted orally from Moses to Joshua all the way down through the exile, right? Through the time of the judges, through the kingdom of the Davidic kingdom, Solomon's temple, through the destruction of the temple, through the Babylonian exile, through the return and the building of the temple, through the end of the Persian era, through the Hellenistic era, right? Through the Roman era. And it's only in the second century or the end of the second century when Judah the prince decided, you know what, I should write this down. Somebody should write this down.
That's the tradition.
That's the Orthodox Jewish tradition.
Right.
So the idea is that what these other people are suggesting? When they say, "Oh, it's Jesus would have known these, Paul would have known these teachings," and yes, they're traditions. Yes, they're not in the written Torah. We admit they're oral, but they still pointed to Yeshua. So therefore, are they taking the full Orthodox position, which is, Moses received a second oral Torah that pointed towards Yeshua, and it's now, to properly read the oral Torah then is to read the Mishnah and the Talmud and interpret it as pointing to Messiah.
Yeah.
Maybe even those passages in the Talmud that says he's boiling in excrement.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell us your thoughts on this subject by leaving a comment in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and enable those notifications. And we'll see you in the next video.